All right. Rolling in the car as always, right? Just can't help it. As I'm driving by, I'm seeing things. Ooh-wee. So this one, I'm gonna just call this like another travel review. So I'm like, all right, there's on the other side of Mexico, on the what do you call it, the Caribbean side, or the Gulf of Mexico rather side. There was one of the first places I landed. I was meeting some friends down near, in a town called Tulum. And I forget, it's a couple hours south of the Cancun, Cozumel area in the Yucatan. And they had some pretty cool street names in their town, like was named after the constellations and the planets and stuff like that. And then I noticed the street names when I got to this part of Mexico where I'm at now. In this town I landed, it was all the street names were like the main principal road of the town, right, was called Avenida Tercer Mundo, which means the avenue of the third world. So meaning to say that this is the main avenue, it's third world, and all the streets in here we're going to name the third world nations. So you have Africa Street, you have Egypt Street, you have Pakistan, I can't remember. Even Mexico, they put Mexico. God, like, where's, I don't know. Mexico's the name of one of the streets. One street's just called South America or something to that effect. Latin America, that's what it says. Like, meaning all of Latin America is the third world. You know what? Like, words, whether you see them and read them to yourself or if they're said out loud, they have a meaning, and the more often that those words are seen or spoken influences the field, let's just say, with that much more potential. So, without giving a refresher course on what is a third world country, but most people tend to think of what is a third world country is, well, a country that's impoverished, and it's of the three world that you, first world, second world, and third world, it's like, you're the most poor. That's what most people think of a third world country. But yes, economic plight and plague is just one of the many characteristics that define, or could define, or rather could identify a country as being third world according to the OECD. Organization for Economic something or other. I can't remember. Anyhow. Right. Well, I just got to ask a silly question. How come there's no street name on there called the United States in that town? I mean, if we're naming third world nations, shouldn't we identify, at least the top 10? So what do I mean by that? Because there's so much economic prosperity up in the States and everything, right? Is that what you're thinking? That's not the only way to identify a third world country. The number one criteria as per the OECD, wish I could remember what this acronym means, but it's some sort of world government organization that monitors the economic development of countries around the world or whatever. Well, the number one criteria, if you're gonna, there was a lot of criteria. There was at least a couple dozen different criteria, but they were prioritized. With the number one criteria, if you can tick this box, you are definitely a third world nation, and you likely can tick all the other boxes that flow from there. So sure enough, just to be the dissident, hang on, I got kids in front of me, they're coming up from the beach, so I'm just gonna have to sit and park real quick. But listen, the number one criteria for determining a third world country, according to the OECD, this was back in the day anyway. Not that long ago. It was like 2011, 2012, somewhere in there. I was finishing up my second master's degree in community and economic development. And the number one, like the prioritized list of third world criteria definition for identifying third world nation was the number of citizens that it has incarcerated. And just check that out for yourself if you don't want to see the number one third world nation on this planet is the United States. And that's why I left so long ago, because the place just makes me feel completely uncomfortable. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The number of people incarcerated, that's what determines that's the number one priority. Like the OECD says, if you can take this spot, number one, as the most incarcerated of all your citizens, then likely you're ticking all the other blocks too. Like you're like the number one third world country. Yeah, sure did. I did this paper on it, that we were asked to do a paper examining the third world nation, blah, 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 whatever it was. And I just decided to be a smart aleck, I suppose, or whatever. I don't know. Dissident. And I did my paper on the United States. And it was probably the only paper this university, which has been around since the 17th century, or even before, actually. I think it was the 16th century. One of those Ivy League universities. I'm pretty sure that as long as they've been running this course and asking people to write this type of paper, that they had never had a student write a paper on the United States. And I kind of expected that the professor would have some, wow, Dede, that's very interesting that you chose to pick the United States to discuss third world nations. And not a peep. I got an A on the paper, but not a peep. Not a peep. Not one iota of discussion. And that was just one professor I had in one class at this one Ivy League university. Yeah. And then the other professor was overseeing an outcome-based field study for the safety and security of the industry called fracking, and I got into a banter with him about it in the public, for the rest of the class to see it as well. Like, how are you in any way, shape, or form condoning fracking? Like, if you don't know what fracking is, check it out. It's, oh my God. Anyway, university. What else would you expect? University, a place of one word, one perspective. Anyway, I just wanted to give that shout out as I was passing through these streets in this town, which I've been passing through, and I've been looking at this since and I'm like, wait, where's this Calle Estados Unidos? Where's Avenida California? Where, like, come on, can we be real? Can we point out the elephant in the room? Are we allowed to say the emperor doesn't have any clothes? I don't know. Well, I am, anyhow. And I'm not asking permission. So, just something for you to ponder, family, in case you hadn't already realized it by now. Because I wrote about this. Sure did. What was that now? 12 years ago? 13 years ago? Maybe we're starting to see it. But you know what about third world nations? We're all going to be third world nation. And third world individuals, right? Unless and until we can free ourselves from the slave master perspective writ large. Because there is just no reason for us not to be living in abundance and prosperity. Unless, of course, you have a debt-based fiat currency system. But we don't need that. Stay tuned, family. More to follow. Ciao for now.